Hi, my name is Michael Rhodes, and this is the 10th in my series of short videos. This morning I want to talk about the times we're in. All these videos hinge around the times we're in, and the time we're in now is a time of what I would call the Great Awakening. Many people call it that. But what does it mean, the Great Awakening? What are we awakening to? I mean, do we wake up in the morning? And basically what I'm saying is no, people get out of bed and think they're awake, but they're not really awake at all. It's interesting, the social media today would be for most people where they get their news, information, and there's a lot of communication takes place on the social media. But I suspect that there is a way, a habit, where as soon as you see something you don't believe, we don't look at it. Don't believe that, don't look at it. That's the way you stay asleep. That's how you stay asleep. The Great Awakening requires you to look at what you don't really believe with a certain openness. In other words, let's just say conspiracy theories. For years and years and years, decades, they were just conspiracy theories. But were they? In fact, and now today, they've been revealed that they were never theories. They were conspiracy realities, such as the Twin Towers. The idea that two aeroplanes flew into that has been gradually taken apart. But you might be listening and say, I don't believe you. I don't believe that. Now, of course the aeroplanes flew into it. We saw it on the news. And yet you can see how that was all doctored up to be fake, that it wasn't true at all, that it was all done with manipulated explosions with no regard to human life. And then you say, but I don't believe that because nobody would do that. I'm sorry, but your belief system needs an overhaul because people do that. People murder and rape and kill, and they don't really care too much about other people. We're not a species as a human race. We're not a species that is thriving and doing well. And so this Great Awakening, you actually, when you're on social media, you come across a posting, I don't believe it. Read it. Try to find an openness and read it and say, there's a possibility I'm wrong. There's a possibility this is real. You don't have to grab it as a belief, but you can open yourself to it. This means you're maybe coming out of the slumber. And so the Great Awakening is realizing that the powers that control humanity, the puppeteers, begin to realize they do not have our best interests in their hearts. I'm not even sure if they have hearts in the way we describe them. I think they have stone for hearts. And so they have an agenda, and that agenda is not for our well-being. That is for their well-being, the 1%. The other 99 can pay the price. And so the Great Awakening is you realize, you might say, well, maybe that's true. But then, of course, you could stay asleep. So I don't believe that, I don't believe that. Very admirable that you don't believe that, and very stupid to cling to it. And so we're in a time, not just of a Great Awakening. In Australia, we have a range of mountains running right down through Australia, just a little way inland from the coast. It's called the Great Divide. And we're in a time of a great divide because humanity is moving into a division. There'll be those who don't believe, who just want to go with the way it is, the way it's always been, what they believe. They're not open. And there'll be those who are awakened, who are open to the way that life really might be or is. And so we're in a time of a great awakening and the great divide. Which side of that divide are you going to be? If you look at our mountain range, the Great Divide, one side it becomes drier and drier and drier until you're in desert country. The other side it gets greener and greener until you get to the ocean. And this is rather like it will be. Are you going to be on the side where it becomes more and more desert and there's less and less in your life? Or are you going to be on the side of this great divide where you're moving into rich new country? And that's your choice to make. If you say, well, I don't believe any of that, then you've made your choice. That's the simplest thing. You're thinking, the way you're thinking, you're making choices. The way you think about other people, you're making choices. You're all the time making choices. Trump comes under a lot of flack, and okay, he owns it. He does everything just about as wrong as he could do it. But he's a human being. I don't believe his intent is bad, even though his actions don't reflect that. I just look on him as a human being, and I give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he is doing his best. He's a New York businessman. He's not a politician. He doesn't necessarily say the smarmy words that people want to hear, because what politicians say, do you really believe them? I mean, we've got politicians in every country. Every country is in trouble. So the politicians, they do their best, but their best is no better than you or I could do. And so we have politicians who are able to use words glibly and with deceit. And it keeps happening. And we keep playing the same stupid game. I suspect that Trump came in and was put there because he's not a politician. He's certainly not able to run a country, from my view, from the other side of the world. But I don't hold that against him, because to me, nothing is by accident. And so I see the world in a very different way from most people. I don't look on anything that's happening as bad or wrong. I look on what is happening as a time of a catalytic time. To me, Trump was first and foremost a catalyst. Hopefully, he's catalyzing the American people, and I'm talking to some of you, out of the apathy that you were gripped in and lost in. An apathy that happens when a country has sort of nearly everything, unless you're homeless, and then what you don't have really hits hard. And there's far, far too many homeless in America and the rest of the world. And so this thing of awakening, we need to awaken. There are better ways of governing countries. There is a better way of running the world. The way that's being pushed on us is a cashless society. You want to think that one through. It means you have no more weekend markets. It means you have no more cash in your pocket, no more little transactions. In other words, you will be under control because everything has to be recorded through your card. So the directions that are being put to us, this control of the so-called pandemic. Yes, there's a lot of people died of COVID-19. Most of them elderly, most of them sick, and we know the numbers have been cooked. We know the numbers have been exaggerated. There's no much doubt about that. And so nobody's saying that didn't happen. But pandemic, it's still only reached the numbers that normal flu year brings. And a really bad flu year brings far more deaths than this has brought so far. Maybe we'll catch up. But if everybody thinks pandemic, what do you think we're going to get? You think this is a pandemic? If everybody's focused on pandemic and every human being is a creative being and people believe in pandemics, we will get a pandemic and it will make this one look like a little trial run. You need to be careful where you focus. If you want to have a focus, if you want to have a belief, focus on love, believe in love. Believe that you are a divine being, that you are a being of love and light. That's a good belief to have. And if you hold that belief and that focus, that will wake you up to a greater truth of the times we're living in now. Thank you.